If you work in animal welfare, you know there's no better feeling than seeing a pet go to a new home. But what happens after they walk out the door? Well, today, we're going to dig into the largest study of its kind. We're talking over 22,000 survey responses to find out what new adopters are really going through so we can actually help these new families succeed. Let's get into it. So, right off the bat, the big headline number from this study is awesome. A full 94% of people who adopt a cat or a dog say their experience was positive. I mean, that's incredible, right? It's a huge pat on the back for all the hard work that shelters and rescues are doing day in and day out. But you gotta wonder, does that huge number really tell the whole story? When someone says everything is great, does that mean it's been totally smooth sailing? Well, it turns out the reality is a lot more complicated than that.
And here it is. This is the core of it. While almost everyone is happy, a whopping 78% of those exact same dog adopters are also dealing with at least one major challenge. And for cat adopters, it's about half. Now, that's not a contradiction. That is the key insight here.
So the folks who did this study have a name for this. They call it the satisfaction paradox. The best way to think about it is like being a new parent. You're completely in love with your new baby, right? But you're also sleep deprived and totally overwhelmed. Both things are true. Adopters are over the moon about their new pet, but at the same time, they might be tearing their hair out over some real deal challenges, which tells us something huge, right? Just asking how's it going and hearing great, that's not going to cut it.
All right, so let's break this down. First up, let's talk about the dogs and get into the specific challenges these new families are running into during that all-important first month.
Okay, so the number one issue for dogs, play biting. The nipping. By the end of the first month, more than a third of adopters are struggling with this. Think about that. For every 3 dogs you see happily walk out the door, one of those families is dealing with a little land shark at home. And right on its heels, no surprise here, house soiling. Almost a third of adopters are dealing with accidents in the house. And we all know this is a huge one, right? It's stressful, it's messy, and honestly, it's a big reason why pets sometimes come back. So this is a spot where we can really offer some support. And finishing off our top 3, leash pulling, with more than a quarter of people saying it's a problem. So let's just say it again. Biting, peeing, and pulling. These are the big 3. And here's the thing. They're super common, totally predictable, and this is the most important part. They are fixable with the right advice.
Okay, so with all that in mind, check this out. This is where things get really interesting for us. Despite those really common issues, nearly half, 48%, have zero plans for training. None. Another quarter are kind of thinking about it, but haven't found anyone yet. This is a giant, flashing sign pointing to where we can make the biggest difference by providing resources.
Okay, let's switch gears. Time to talk about the cats. The story here is a little different. People report fewer challenges overall, but the ones they do have are pretty unique to felines.
So for cats, the top challenge is completely different. It's fear. In that very first week, almost 1 in 5 adopters says their new cat is timid or hiding. And of course, that's normal, but it can be really disheartening for someone who is dreaming of an instant lap cat. So you see the pattern here, right? It's all about them just getting used to everything. Fear, getting to know the other pets, general anxiety. It's all part of the adjustment period. And get this, that little number for destructive scratching, only 4% at first? Yeah, that actually doubles by month 1 once they start feeling a bit more at home and their claws come out.
All right, moving on from behavior, let's talk about some of the paperwork side of things. Super important stuff, vet visits and microchips.
So that first week home is pretty chaotic, and the numbers show it. Only about 28% of dogs and a tiny 18% of cats have seen a vet. And you get it, right? People are just trying to survive that first week. But it is a missed chance to get some early professional advice. Okay, but there's good news. By the end of the first month, things look a lot better. 2/3 of dogs and over half of cats have made it to the vet. That's great, but that still leaves a huge chunk of pets, like 1/3 of dogs and almost half of all cats, without that crucial connection to a veterinarian.
The study had this quote that it nails it. A microchip is pretty much a miracle of technology, but it's totally useless if the contact info attached to it is wrong. It's that simple. And the numbers back this up in a kind of scary way. More than 1 in 3 adopters haven't even checked if their info is correct on the microchip after a whole week. I mean, this is such a simple thing to fix, but it's the difference between a happy reunion and a heartbreaking loss.
Okay, so we've got all this amazing data. What do we do with it?
How do we take all this research and turn it into real, practical help for the next person who walks through our doors?
Okay, this is it. This is the game plan. First, talk about that satisfaction paradox. Let people know it's normal to be happy and stressed at the same time. Second, prep them for the big 3 dog issues: biting, soiling, pulling. And for cats, tell them to be patient with hiding. Third, really push for that vet visit in the first month. Fourth, and this might be the most important one, don't just tell them about the microchip. Have them pull out their phone and do it with you, right there before they leave. And finally, give them actual resources, like a list of trainers or a handout on helping shy cats.
So the big takeaway here is that when an adopter says things are great, that's not the end of the conversation, it's the beginning. This data gives us the power to ask better questions. So I'll leave you with a challenge. Knowing all this, what's one new question you're going to ask the very next adopter you work with?